I don't react anymore, I dominate. Listen closely, mortal. Draw near and hear these words that will either forge you into something magnificent or confirm what I already suspect. That you're merely another fleeting shadow in an endless procession of the weak. You stand before me now, and I can see it written across your face. The exhaustion, the frustration, the silent rage that builds every time someone disrespects you. Every time circumstances bend you like a reed in the wind. Every time you swallow your pride and tell yourself it's wisdom to let it go. But it isn't wisdom, is it? It's cowardice dressed in the robes of virtue. I am not here to comfort you. I am not here to tell you that everything happens for a reason or that the universe will reward your patience. Those are the lullabies sung to cattle being led to slaughter. I am here to awaken something far more dangerous within you. The recognition that you have been conditioned to react when you were born to dominate. The world has taught you a poisonous doctrine, that responding to provocation makes you weak, that asserting you will make you aggressive, that claiming what is rightfully yours makes you selfish. They've convinced you that power is something to be ashamed of, that ambition is a sin, that the greatest virtue is to diminish yourself in service of collective mediocrity. And you believe them, didn't you? Every time someone cuts you off in traffic and you grip the steering wheel in silent fury. Every time a colleague takes credit for your work and you smile through clenched teeth. Every time someone speaks to you with disrespect and you rationalize it away, they're having a bad day, it's not worth the argument. I'm better than that. No, you're not better than that. You're scared of that. There is a difference between the man who chooses not to react because he operates from a position of unshakable power, and the man who doesn't react because he fears the consequences of action. One is a king surveying his domain with detached amusement. The other is a prisoner who has convinced himself that his cell is actually a meditation room. Which one are you? I'll tell you what reaction is. Reaction is the death rattle of agency. It's a frantic scrambling of someone who has surrendered the initiative to external forces. When you react, you are not the author of your story. You are a character in someone else's narrative, dancing to rhythms composed by those who have already claimed dominance over your emotional landscape. The reactive man checks his phone every 30 seconds, heart rate spiking with each notification. The reactive man's mood is determined by the traffic, by the weather, by the opinions of people whose names he won't remember in 5 years. The reactive man lives in a state of perpetual response, forever one step behind, forever adjusting to a world that moves without asking his permission. This is not living. This is drowning in slow motion. But domination is something entirely different. Domination is not about controlling others, though that may be a consequence. True domination is about establishing such complete sovereignty over your own reality that the chaos of the external world breaks against you like waves against a fortress built on bedrock. The man who dominates does not react because his emotional state is not available for colonization. His peace is not dependent on the behavior of lesser beings. His purpose is not derailed by inconvenience. His vision is not clouded by the fog of other people's urgency. He moves through the world like a gravitational force, not pushing, not pleading, not reacting, simply existing with such density of purpose that everything and everyone bends toward his trajectory. I can already hear the objection forming in your mind. But what about patience? What about strategy? Isn't it sometimes wise to not engage? Fools confuse domination with impulsivity. True power is never reactive, but it is also never passive. There is a third way, and it requires you to understand something fundamental about the architecture of reality. The universe rewards clarity, not hope, not good intentions, not patience divorced from purpose. Clarity, when you know with unshakable certainty what you are building, what you are becoming. What territory you are claiming in this brief flash of consciousness between two infinite voids. Then the petty provocations of small-minded people become amusing rather than enraging. Not because you've transcended ego, but because you've aligned it so precisely with your will that distractions simply have no surface upon which to gain purchase. This is the secret they don't want you to know. The elite, the powerful, the ones who shape the world while you debate their morality. They don't react either. But they don't react from a position of strength so overwhelming that engagement would be a waste of precious energy. They are not avoiding conflict. They are so far ahead in a game you didn't know you were playing that your provocations don't even register on their awareness. Think about it. Does the lion react to the criticism sheep? Does the storm apologize to the tree it uprooted? Does the ocean concern itself with the opinions of the drowning? No, and neither should you. But, and this is crucial, this is not permission for apathy. This is not an invitation to check out, to meditate yourself into irrelevance, to convince yourself that nothing matters, so that you can avoid the terrifying responsibility of mattering enormously. The difference between domination and detachment is this. One builds empires, the other builds excuses. You must become someone for whom reaction is beneath you not because you've surrendered ambition, but because your ambition is so all-consuming, so precisely aimed, so ruthlessly executed that the static of daily life cannot penetrate the signal of your purpose. Every moment you spend reacting to provocation is a moment stolen from your ascension. Every ounce of energy you waste being angry at traffic is energy that could have been invested in becoming irreplaceable. Every minute you spend in pointless argument with someone who will never change their mind is a minute you could have spent compounding your advantages. The world is not fair. It was never meant to be fair. Fairness is a fairy tale told to children and repeated by adults who have given up on greatness. The world is an arena of competing wills, and the spoils go not to the most moral, not to the most patient, not to the most fair, but to the most focused. Your enemies, and yes, you have enemies whether you acknowledge them or not, are not winning because they're smarter than you or more talented than you. They're winning because they're more committed to domination than you are. While you're reacting or acting, while you're processing your feelings about being disrespected, they're implementing the strategy that will make your feelings irrelevant. This is the brutal arithmetic of power. Intent without action is fantasy. Action without focus is chaos. Focus without relentlessness is hobby. Only when you combine crystal clear intent with decisive action, unbreakable focus, and relentless execution do you cross the threshold from reaction into domination. Before I continue with the deeper truths you need to hear, I need you to make a choice right now. If these words are resonating with you, if you feel something ancient and powerful stirring in your chest, then prove it. Don't just consume this wisdom like another passive spectator. Dominate this moment by taking action. Hit that like button. Leave a comment telling me what mask you're finally ready to tear off. And subscribe to this channel, because what I'm about to reveal next will separate the pretenders from the predators. This isn't a request, it's a test. Let's see if you're ready to stop reacting and start commanding your reality. Now let's go deeper. You need to understand the mechanics of how you became a reactor in the first place. This didn't happen by accident. You were conditioned systematically, deliberately, expertly to surrender your sovereignty. From the moment you entered the education system, you were taught to raise your hand before speaking, to ask permission to use the bathroom, to move when the bell rang, and sit when instructed. You were graded not on the quality of your thinking, but on your compliance with prescribed answers. Creativity was punished unless it colored within lines drawn by someone else. Then you entered the workforce, and the conditioning intensified. You learned to check your calendar before committing to anything. You learned to phrase your ideas as questions. You learned that being a team player meant subordinating your vision to committee consensus. You learned that the fastest way to advancement was to make your superiors comfortable rather than make them confront uncomfortable truths. Your relationships reinforced the same pattern. You learned to compromise, which usually meant giving up what you wanted to avoid conflict. You learned to communicate, which usually meant explaining yourself to people who had already decided not to understand you. You learned to be sensitive, which usually meant walking on eggshells around the emotional fragility of people who never extended the same courtesy to you. And slowly, imperceptibly, you became a reactor. Your life became a series of responses to external stimuli rather than the execution of internal vision. But here's what they never told you. This system wasn't designed for your benefit. It was designed to produce docile, manageable, predictable units of productivity who would work efficiently within existing structures without questioning who built those structures or who benefits from their perpetuation. The system doesn't want you to dominate. It wants you to participate. And participation is just dignified slavery. The man who dominates looks at every system, every tradition, every "this is how things are done," and asks a simple question. Says who? And what's in it for them? He understands that most of the rules you live by were created by people who are now dead to solve problems that no longer exist. He understands that social norms are not laws of physics. They're collective hallucinations that persist only as long as enough people believe in them. And he stops believing, not in some anarchist, burn it all down way. That's just reaction in a different costume. No, he stops believing in a far more dangerous way. He starts operating according to principles he has consciously chosen, in service of objectives he has deliberately set, indifferent to the approval or disapproval of the crowd. This is what terrifies the system most, not the rebel who fights against it. Rebels can be contained, dismissed, martyred. No, what truly terrifies the system is the man who simply opts out of its logic entirely and builds something new according to his own architecture. Because that man is contagious. When people see someone who has genuinely stopped reacting and started dominating, something happens. The carefully constructed story about what's possible begins to crack. The excuses that seemed so solid begin to dissolve. The fear that kept everyone in line begins to feel less like wisdom and more like cowardice. This is why they will hate you. Not because you're wrong. Not because you're hurting anyone. Not because you're doing something immoral. They will hate you because your very existence is an accusation against their choices. Your freedom is a mirror that reflects their captivity. Your domination is a spotlight that illuminates their reaction. And they will do everything in their power to pull you back down. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. They'll warn you that you're becoming someone they don't recognize. They'll weaponize your past mistakes as proof that you're not qualified for the future you're claiming. They'll concern troll you with questions about sustainability and balance, and whether you're losing yourself. Let them. Their resistance is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's confirmation that you're on the right one. The reactive man seeks permission before stepping into power. The dominating man understands that permission is something you grant to yourself and then dare the world to revoke. Now let me address the question I know is circling in your mind. But what about the people I care about? Doesn't domination mean I become some kind of isolated tyrant? This reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of what domination actually is. The weak man believes he must choose between power and connection, between ambition and love, between dominating his reality and maintaining relationships. This is a false dichotomy perpetuated by those who possess neither power nor meaningful relationships. True domination makes you more capable of genuine connection, not less. Why? Because connection requires presence, and you cannot be truly present when you're constantly reacting to threats both real and imagined. You cannot give yourself fully to anything or anyone when you're fragmented across 1,000 different emotional reactions to circumstances beyond your control. The dominating man has energy to spare for the people who matter, because he's not hemorrhaging it on people and situations that don't. He can be fully present with his children because he's not replaying the disrespectful comment his colleague made 6 hours ago. He can be vulnerable with his partner because vulnerability is a choice he makes from a position of strength, not a weakness exposed by circumstance. But, and this is crucial, he also knows that not everyone deserves access to him. He understands that his time, his energy, his attention are finite resources that must be allocated according to his strategic priorities, not distributed democratically to anyone who asks. This is not cruelty. This is respect for the sacred. You are sacred. Your purpose is sacred. Your time on this planet is sacred. And anything that does not honor that sanctity must be eliminated from your reality with the same ruthless efficiency that a general eliminates threats to his army. This is where most men fail. They understand the philosophy. They nod along with these words. They feel the fire ignite in their belly. And then they go back to their lives and change nothing. Why? Because understanding is not enough. Emotion is not enough. Even commitment is not enough. What's required is a complete reorganization of your daily reality around the principle of domination rather than reaction. This means infrastructure. This means systems. This means burning boats so that retreat becomes impossible. Let me give you the practical architecture of domination. First, you must establish non-negotiables. These are the principles, practices, and boundaries that you will defend with your life. Not metaphorically, literally. These are the things that, if compromised, would make you cease to be yourself in any meaningful sense. For most men, this list is empty because they've never bothered to consciously choose what they stand for. They're reactive even in their values, adopting whatever seems socially acceptable at the moment. The dominating man writes his non-negotiables in blood and builds his entire life around protecting them. Second, you must control your attention with the vigilance of a wartime sentry. Your attention is not neutral. Whatever you focus on grows. If you spend your days consuming news about things you can't control, relationships you're not in, problems you didn't create, you're training yourself in reaction. The dominating man curates his information diet with extreme prejudice, consuming only what serves his mission and ruthlessly eliminating everything else. Third, you must operate from a posture of preemptive action rather than reactive response. This means you're always moving first, always setting the agenda, always defining the terms of engagement. In business, this means you're creating opportunities rather than waiting for them. In relationships, this means you're initiating difficult conversations rather than waiting for problems to explode. In life, this means you're building the future you want rather than adapting to the one that's coming. Fourth, you must develop what I call strategic indifference. This is not apathy. It's the capacity to remain emotionally neutral toward outcomes while remaining totally committed to process. The reactive man lives and dies by results, which means his emotional state is constantly hijacked by variables beyond his control. The dominating man focuses on executing his system with excellence and lets results take care of themselves. Fifth, you must eliminate every person, habit, environment, and belief system that reinforces your identity as a reactor. This is the purge. This is the dark night where you look honestly at your life and acknowledge how much of it is built around the convenience of others rather than the sovereignty of self. Some friendships will not survive this. Some family relationships will become more distant. Some career paths will reveal themselves as dead ends. Burn them all. Your old life cannot coexist with your new power. I know these words are harsh. I know they scrape against everything you've been taught about being a good person. But understand this. Good is a weapon used by the mediocre to shame the excellent into dimming their light. You were not put on this earth to be good. You were put here to be great. And greatness has never been achieved by men who spent their lives reacting to the expectations of people whose names history won't remember. We've reached a critical juncture in this transmission. You've consumed enough wisdom to be dangerous, but not yet enough to be unstoppable. The final chapters contain the darkest truths, the ones that will either complete your transformation or send you running back to the comfortable prison of reaction. But I need to know you're serious. This is your second and final chance to prove it. Smash that subscribe button if you're ready to see just how deep this goes. Like this video if you're finally tired of lying to yourself. And comment below with one word, dominate. If you're ready to stop talking and start claiming what's yours. The weak will scroll past this moment. The strong will seize it. Which are you? Now, let's talk about the thing you've been avoiding. The shadow side of domination. The part that makes you uncomfortable. Domination requires you to become comfortable with other people's discomfort. Read that again. Most of your life has been spent managing other people's emotions at the expense of your own objectives. You've learned to read rooms, to soften your edges, to make yourself smaller, so that others can feel bigger. You become an expert in the emotional labor of keeping everyone around you comfortable, convinced that this is what mature, evolved people do. It's not. It's what slaves do. The dominating man understands that if everyone is comfortable, nothing important is happening. Growth occurs at the edge of discomfort. Transformation requires the destruction of old forms. Power demands that some people's expectations be violated, some people's feelings be hurt, some people's illusions be shattered. And he's willing to be the one who does it. This doesn't mean being cruel for cruelty's sake. Sadism is just another form of reaction. You're letting other people's pain dictate your behavior. No, what I'm describing is something far more dangerous. The capacity to pursue your objectives with such singular focus that other people's emotional responses to your pursuit become irrelevant data points rather than veto powers over your decisions. Your mother's disappointment that you're not pursuing the career she wanted for you? Irrelevant. Your friend's hurt feelings that you're no longer available for 3-hour therapy sessions about their self-created problems? Irrelevant. Your colleague's resentment that you're no longer participating in the communal misery ritual of complaining about the boss? Irrelevant. These are not your problems to solve. You are not responsible for managing the emotional consequences of other people's attachment to who you used to be. This is the loneliness of domination that no one talks about when you stop reacting. You stop playing the games that keep most social bonds intact. The shared complaints, the mutual victimhood, the collective fantasies about what you do if only. These are the glue that holds reactive communities together. When you start dominating, that glue dissolves. You'll find yourself in rooms where you used to fit perfectly, and suddenly you're speaking a language no one else understands. You'll reach for old friendships and find they've atrophied not because anyone did anything wrong, but because you're literally operating from a different paradigm. This is the price, and it's non-negotiable. But here's what they don't tell you. On the other side of that loneliness is a different kind of connection. Deeper, rarer, forged not in the fires of mutual weakness, but in the recognition of mutual strength. When you stop reacting and start dominating, you become a beacon for others who are walking the same path. You'll find your tribe, not the tribe of convenience and proximity, but the tribe of shared purpose and complementary power. These relationships operate on entirely different principles. There's no tolerance for emotional manipulation, no patience for victimhood, no space for excuses, just honest assessment of reality, clear articulation of objectives, and ruthless support in the execution of vision. This is what's waiting for you, but you have to be willing to walk through the valley first. And in that valley you'll be tested. The universe has a peculiar way of stress testing new identities. The moment you declare yourself done with reaction and committed to domination, every old pattern, every familiar trigger, every ancient wound will present itself with renewed intensity. This is not punishment. This is calibration. Reality is checking to see if you mean it. Your old programming is fighting for survival. The part of you that found safety in reaction is staging a last desperate rebellion against the part of you that's claiming sovereignty. Most men fail here. They interpret the intensity of the test as evidence that they're on the wrong path. They mistake the death throes of their old identity for a sign from the universe to turn back. They confuse the discomfort of transformation with the pain of mistake. Don't make this error. The fact that it's hard is not evidence that you're wrong. It's evidence that you're doing something real. Delusion is easy. Fantasy is comfortable. Reaction is familiar. Domination is forge yourself in fire. And yes, you will burn. Parts of you that you thought were essential will turn to ash. Beliefs that seemed foundational will crumble. Relationships you thought were permanent will reveal themselves as seasonal. Let them burn. You are not who you were. You are not even who you are. You are who you are becoming. And who you are becoming has no use for the dead weight of who you were. This is the final secret they don't want you to know. You have always had the capacity for domination. It's not something you need to acquire or achieve or earn. It's something you need to remember and then choose. You were born with will, with agency, with the capacity to impose your vision on reality. Every baby demonstrates this. They don't react to hunger. They dominate their environment with demand until needs are met. They don't negotiate with discomfort. They reject it with total conviction. Somewhere along the way, they trained it out of you. They told you that your will was selfishness. They told you that your agency was aggression. They told you that your refusal to accept unsatisfactory realities was immaturity. They lied. Your will is your birthright. Your agency is your inheritance. Your refusal to accept mediocrity is your evolution asserting itself against the gravity of collective stagnation. The only question that matters now is this. Will you reclaim it? Not tomorrow. Not after you finish this job and that relationship, complete that degree, achieve that milestone. Those are just more sophisticated forms of reaction, waiting for external permission to become what you already have the capacity to be. Now, in this moment, with this breath, you can decide that you are done reacting. that from this point forward, you operate from a different paradigm. That your life is no longer a series of responses to external provocations, but the systematic execution of internal vision. Nothing has to change externally for this shift to occur. You can be in the same job, the same relationship, the same city, but operating from completely different principles. Where you once saw obstacles, you now see information. Where you once experienced triggers, you now notice data. Where you once felt victimized, you now recognize opportunity. This is the alchemy. This is the magic they told you doesn't exist. You don't change your circumstances and then change your identity. You change your identity, and your circumstances rearrange themselves to match. But you have to go first. You have to be willing to stand in the declaration of your dominion before the evidence appears. You have to be willing to feel like a fraud, like an imposter, like someone playing a role, until one day you realize you're not playing anymore. This is the narrow gate. Most will not enter, not because they can't, but because the price of admission feels too high when you're standing on the outside looking in. But from the inside, from the perspective of someone who has stopped reacting and started dominating, the only mystery is why you waited so long. So I ask you again, standing here in this moment, feeling these words land in whatever part of you is still wild, still hungry, still unwilling to accept the diminished life the world has prescribed. Will you react, or will you dominate? The answer is not found in your intentions. It's not found in your feelings. It's not even found in your beliefs. It's found in what you do next, and then what you do after that, and then what you do after that. One decision at a time, one action at a time, one moment of choosing sovereignty over safety, clarity over comfort, domination over reaction. This is the way. There is no other. Now go. The world is waiting for you to claim it, or to prove that you never really wanted it in the first place.